Previously on my YouTube channel, I took a look at the crazy buses in Ukraine. The crazy bus is a public transport method which is entirely privately run with very little regulation from the government. But these buses are privately owned by individual people. All you have to do to run a crazy bus is to simply buy a bus and put a number on the front of it. You then drive the route, picking up fares from the passengers wanting to run on the route. It is deregulated. The government is barely involved in this. It is public transport the capitalist way. Crazy bus owners have no obligation to fulfill any social responsibility. All they're there to do is to make profit. Now, in the busy periods of the day on very profitable routes, this actually runs very well. There's lots of competition, and a capitalist pig like Jacob Rees-Mogg will go, all capitalism is good. But even though it might work well in the correct place, for actual proper public transport, including running routes to villages, running routes at night time when there's not many people about, it simply doesn't work. In fact, there's often no crazy buses to be seen late into the evening. Now, that is in Ukraine. What about in Egypt? So in this video we go to Sharm El Sheikh in Egypt, which also has crazy buses. But unlike Ukraine, there is no public transport at all. The only method of public transport in the city is crazy bus. There is no state-run transport. There's no state-subsidised transport. The government and council have no control over public transport. The entire city's public transport is entirely done from people running their own little bus services trying to make money. So then, let's compare the crazy buses in Sharm El Sheikh to Ukraine. Now in Ukraine, the crazy buses are like mini-bus vehicles. In Sharm El Sheikh, they are a lot smaller. They're these tiny little microbuses that hold one driver and 11 passengers, and they get very cramped when they're full. Now, what about the routes? Now in Ukraine, there's loads and loads of crazy bus routes, while in Sharm El Sheikh, there's just the one route. The entire city has just one bus route, and if you want to go somewhere that's not on that bus route, you're quite screwed. You have to walk. Now, what about the cost? In Ukraine, the crazy bus is a fixed cost, which is around equivalent to 25p no matter how far you go. Now in Sharm El Sheikh, the cost is variable. There is quite a bit of haggling. Now if you get the going rate for a tourist and you don't get ripped off by a crazy bus driver, the going rate is 50 Egyptian for the entire route. The entire route is 16 miles long, one end of the city to the other. So if you're doing the entire route for 50 Egyptian, which is about £1.20, that is fairly reasonable. 16 miles for £1.20, yeah, that's pretty good. And if you're going a shorter distance, you pay less. But it gets even weirder, because if you pay in US dollars to go on the crazy bus, it costs just $1. That's about 80p. That's cheaper if you pay in dollars. And interestingly, most of the shops around Sharm El Sheikh often let you pay in dollars. Now in Sharm El Sheikh, you have to be very quick on your maths because you're often quoted two prices in dollars and in local currency, and you have to very quickly do a conversion to work out which one's cheaper. But one thing is, on the crazy bus, I noticed a lot of the locals were paying far less than what I was being charged. The locals get charged a lot less than the tourists. Now if you're really pushy, you can actually make sure you demand the lower fares if you're a local, but the crazy bus drivers don't really like you doing that if you're a tourist. Also, I'm not sure if the front seats are counted as first class, because when you sit in the front seats, they often try and charge more than if you sit in the rear seats. So then, let's now take a ride on the first crazy bus. This crazy bus is a combined Toyota King Long branded bus. This one's a fairly new bus. All of the drivers are quite crazy and fast. They're all out competing each other, so they're all driving absolutely crazy, which is why I call it a crazy bus. Let's ride it. frequent do you think these crazy buses are? Now in Ukraine, I was very impressed by the frequency in the daytime, where sometimes as little as every 60 seconds between buses, although in the evening the buses almost disappear. Meanwhile, in Sharm El Sheikh, on average, the crazy buses run every 50 seconds. That means as soon as you walk to the roadside, you have less than a minute to wait for your bus to turn up. Just imagine a bus service like that in England. It just wouldn't happen, would it? And interestingly, unlike Ukraine, even into the evening, the crazy buses still provide a very regular service. These little buses are like every 50 seconds. It's more than one a minute. It's like every 45 to every 60 seconds. It's about 45 every 50 seconds. They are so regular. I've never known a bus service as regular as this. No headlights again. Oh, that's an old one. That looks interesting. Here's another one that was about 40 seconds after the last one. So frequent. Oh, no headlights again. That one's quite old and knackered looking. It's so frequent, these things. I've never known someone having such a good bus service. Oh, there's another one. Let's now ride a crazy bus at night time. This one is an older model of crazy bus, although it probably isn't that old, because this crazy bus is built by King Long, Chinese company, and some of their older models, which are only like 10 years old, feel more like they're 30 years old. It feels like something from like the 80s, even though it isn't. Let's ride it. again the next day, and now let's ride a brand new crazy bus. This one I think is less than a year old. It smelt new. This driver tried to overcharge me by 3 times ago. Right, he actually wanted £4 for a ride until I told him no, you're charging too much. And the driver's like, oh, this person knows how much it costs. Like, drivers will charge you too much if they think they can get away with it. Anyway, let's ride this crazy bus.
ليه ما تطلع فاضي؟ انا جاي له عربيه واحنا ما بكناش
سجلت هتبقى عملت
جاي له عربيه واحنا ما بكناش. انا بقول لك انا مسكت بس 3 انفار النفر اللي دفع 40 جنيه ده
So then, let's now ride the next crazy bus. So, in my next video on my YouTube channel, I'm going to do a full trip on a crazy bus going quite a few miles across the city. So you get a better feel of what it's like to do an actual journey on the bus, of the whole thing, stopping, starting for all the passengers, and what it's like having a crazy bus journey. So make sure you stay tuned for that video.
Esatto.